There's a lot of hot topics among the gaming community, and today we're going to be breaking down 5 things in gaming I have zero interest in. And yes, that is a Santa pig behind me, and his name is Jasper. Let's get started. Coming in at number 5, we have VR, or virtual reality. Now, this is something that I haven't had an interest in basically the entirety of its lifespan. I think the price point, the entry point of it is a little jarring and a little steep for me personally. There's only a handful of games, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 4 Remake, the original Resident Evil 4, things of that nature that I would like to play in VR. But outside of that, I think it's kind of a novelty thing, and I think it would probably sit on the shelf majority of the time. I don't really get into the whole gimmick aspect of gaming too often, and I think that's kind of where VR falls into. Now, if you're playing in kind of a group setting at a bar or something like that, some kind of like bar arcade where there's drinks and food and you're with friends and kind of interacting, playing like 4 people, all at once, something like that, I could see the appealing aspect of that every now and then. But in terms of VR, it's one of those things that I just generally have zero interest in, and I don't see me playing any kind of VR games in the near future. And there's also kind of the motion sickness aspect of it as well, which I don't know if that would mess with me. And I also wear prescription glasses. I don't really mess with contacts, so I also don't know how that would work out. I'm assuming they fit over your glasses, if I had to guess. But like I said, it's not something I generally have an interest in. So VR is at number 5 for me. Now we're going to start to get a little more controversial, because this next topic is just for me personally. This is my list of things that don't interest me. I am mostly a single game player. Story games, survival horror, third-person action adventure, platformers, retro games. Those are the kind of things I'm basically into. So at number 4 coming in, we have co-op and multiplayer games, but in particular, horror games. Now, over the years, I've seen numerous games come out, like The Forest, the Friday the 13th game, Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, Dead by Daylight, just to name a few. And my opinion on this is, number 1, if I'm playing a horror game, I want to be scared. I want it to scare me. And when you're playing with someone else or with a group of people, it really takes the horror aspect out of the game, in my opinion. Things are not scary when you have other people to rely on, or a companion or an ally. The isolation of being alone is what makes these games terrifying and scary. Like Silent Hill 2 that I'm playing right now. If you made that into a multiplayer game, it's not gonna hit the same, among many others. Now, I know a lot of people like Resident Evil 5, and it's a fun experience to have, but that's not really necessarily what I'm looking for in a horror game. And I don't know, I've just never really had a lot of interest in co-op horror games or playing them online with other people, but that'll kind of lead us into what we're talking about next. So coming in at number 3, we have first-person shooters. Yes, first-person shooters. Now, I played a little bit of COD back in the day when I was in college, but in general, I've never really had an appetite for these type of games. I think they're very cookie cutter. Learn the map, learn where spawns are and all this kind of, I don't know, the competitive aspect of it and playing online. I really don't have any interest in that. I think, you know, as kind of like a palate cleanser, just to jump into a campaign every 5 to 10 years or something, the fact that they just pump them out every year in terms of your war zones and your Call of Duties and things of that nature, it's just like Madden. I don't really care about it anymore. There's not really an aspect of it that's gonna change that opinion. There's not really much they can do to change that opinion for me. It's just not my thing. I like to have experiences, story-driven experiences, almost like I'm controlling a movie or playing out, I don't know, just going on an adventure. And not that you can't do that in the first-person form, but I like seeing my character. I don't know, that's just like, it's just a different perspective, and for some reason I just enjoy it more. I think the mechanics with first-person shooters can be fun, you know, like in a Resident Evil 7, that is an example of something I would play. And it did make it a little more intense, you know, when you're in the first person playing horror games. It can have a different effect than the third person, especially with things coming up behind you and things of that nature. But overall, first person shooters just aren't for me. And that goes hand in hand with number 2, and that's playing online. Now, shocker, I have not played online. Are you ready for this? Take a seat. You might need to. In nearly 10 years, I would say. I just don't have an interest in it at all. I don't like the aspect that you have to pay for it and renew each year, and the price goes up, and I don't know. I'm not a competitive gamer anymore. Not that I ever was, but you know, if you sit down and play a game with me, I will be competitive. But couch co-op is so much different than playing online with just random people. I kind of dabbled with it a little bit when I had a PlayStation 3, playing online with like Madden, and like I said previously, COD. But it's just never really been my cup of tea. It doesn't, it just doesn't do it for me. I don't like, maybe I'm just antisocial. I don't know. I guess when I game, it's more of my alone time, my relaxing time, my me time. And I like to have a whole vibe going on. You know, turn down the lights, maybe light a candle, have a glass of wine, you know, a little, if I choose to. But, you know, to each their own. If you like getting online and chatting in chat rooms and sending people messages and talking shit and being competitive, and I don't know, I just feel like you're so, like, especially playing like first person shooters online, you have to be like so just paranoid and just frantic and just, I don't know, it's almost exhausting compared to like relaxing, in my opinion. And I see people getting so frustrated with it too. It's like that kind of completely takes the whole reason you're gaming out of the picture if you're getting frustrated and pissed off, you know. Don't get me wrong, there's frustrating aspects of games I play too, but it's not something that I'm going to take out on other people online. I don't know. Like, I take it out on the game, I guess. You know, I get better. I focus more. But yeah, number 2, playing online. No interest for me. And at number 1, no surprise, but I have 0 interest in gaming subscriptions. That's right. Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, Nintendo Online, I do not give a shit. These services are a waste of money, in my opinion. If you were a casual, I would say, it could be appealing for you, and that's no assault, no assault. No insult to you if you're a casual gamer, that's fine, and you only play a handful of games. Something like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, I can see the appeal of it. But for me, as someone that makes videos on video games, appreciates the history of it, likes to collect physical gaming subscriptions, just aren't for me. I would not use the service enough to justify paying that monthly cost. And I would also get on there and doom scroll and probably not end up picking anything majority of the time because of so much available. Just like my modded Xbox. I was very excited when I first got it. Oh my goodness, look at all these games I can play. You know how many times I've pulled out that Xbox and actually played it? Once, maybe twice. And the fact that when I see my games physically, I know what I haven't played, I know what I have played, and it's just so much easier to kind of plan out what I want to actually play. Because I have to put the game in, I have to take a game out to switch it. So I try to stick to whatever I'm playing and beat that game before I go on to something else. I also have a list on my computer of games I've played, games I've completed, blah, 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 games I own, games I want, and it kind of keeps everything organized and it's fun for me. And just having a large assortment of games is fun in theory, but you don't really utilize it, is what I've noticed in terms of emulation. Even like the collection games I have, like the Sega Genesis collection that has like 50 games, I just hardly play those games because I'm not really thinking about one game. It's really hard to kind of like plan ahead and think when you have such a large collection of games, like, oh, I'm gonna pull out that modded Xbox and play Fatal Frame 2, The Crimson Butterfly. Like, I can't really fathom or think of even what games are available on there because there's 200 of them. And the same thing if you have a large list on your computer, there's so many games that you have intentions to play, but since they're digital or through emulation or part of a collection, a lot of times they're forgotten about. Where if it's on the shelf, there it is. I can pick it up and play it. Not to mention they raise the prices of these subscriptions every year. They don't have the best selection of games. And, you know, I'm sure they can remove them just like Netflix can remove movies and shows as well. So I'm gonna end it there. Enough ranting, but those are the 5 things in gaming I have zero interest in. Comment below some of these things in gaming that you have zero interest in. I'd love to hear about it, or if you just agree with some of the things I said or disagree, comment down below. I'd love to hear about it. Make sure you give this video a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Stay blessed, my friends.